Well, here I am, ComicFoil, amateur YouTube creator about to start the video series I've been dreaming about for years. Whether writing top 10s with the GreenScorpion, directing plays, or playing Dungeons & Dragons, I've always taken a deep interest in works of fiction, and I've always held that the most powerful stories are built on a foundation of strong characters. Whether or not a game focuses on story, whether or not something is meant to be deep, I can't help but gravitate towards, empathize with, and tirelessly analyze the personalities that populate these worlds. How do they grow or change? What do they represent? What is their role in the narrative, and what can they teach us about ourselves, with or without the intention of the author? That's why, in what I hope will be a long-running collection, I want to discuss my favorite cases in characterization. This is my first attempt, so I'm going to start small. Very, very small. This is Character Study.
Presented by ComicFoil. Welcome to Character Study. Choose your character. Captain Olimar. Game set.
Captain Olimar is the protagonist of the Pikmin series, introduced in the original Pikmin for the Nintendo GameCube in late 2001. While he has several inspirations, he is particularly molded from the same protagonist clay as Mario. The Pikmin series is the brainchild of Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto, and Olimar's Japanese name, Olimar, is an anagram of, you guessed it, Mario. He has some red in his color palette, and the parallel is further illustrated when Pikmin 2 introduces a taller, trimmer, younger sidekick named Louie, a shortening of Luigi. In these ways, familiar features of Mario are used as a visual shorthand to cement Olimar not only as our main character, but as an everyman. And while Pikmin casts him in the position of hero, in everyday life he's a simple delivery man for Hocotate Freight, an intergalactic shipping company on Olimar's home planet of Hocotate. Not too different from Mario's humble roots as a plumber. Funny thing about Hocatations, they are quite small, Olimar himself measuring in at 3/4 of an inch high. His story picks up with his journey home from a long-distance delivery when his ship, the SS Dolphin, is hit by an asteroid, sending Olimar careening toward an uncharted planet. This world is sometimes called PNF 404, or the Distant Planet, though several context clues lead us to infer that it is actually planet Earth, and that the giant creatures and structures are all actually a result of Olimar being so darn small. Olimar is stranded on this planet, the oxygen-rich atmosphere poisonous to him. This gives him only 30 days of life support before he asphyxiates. Fortunately, Olimar meets the Pikmin, a race of friendly plant creatures that will obey his every command. By utilizing the Pikmin, Olimar must gather the scattered parts of his beloved ship and repair it before time runs out. My love for this character is rather personal. I was in 5th grade when I bought Pikmin with my saved up allowance, and though I might have been a little old to feel this way, games like this scared the crap out of me. Not like I thought the monsters in the game were going to come to life and hurt me or anything, but I would get more and more anxious the further into a game I got. Pikmin was no exception. I love this trilogy for its strategy and time management, but starting out, it was daunting for a 10-year-old comic. Everything is bigger than you, and every hit to your army translates into Pikmin deaths that you'll have to recover from. But you can't just play slow and steady, since there's a ticking clock before Olimar's suffocating demise. It's a lot of pressure, but what lulled me into playing this, more than the great level design or the lovable Pikmin, was Olimar himself. I really wanted to get him home. Olimar is a man of few words, but in place of a tutorial, you get his notes and mission logs, explaining the controls and mechanics and giving helpful information at the end of every in-game day. It's not much, but it subtly conveys information about our hero without taking too much time away from the gameplay, and simultaneously teaches us how to play Pikmin. From these captain's logs, we learn that Olimar has a wife, 2 kids, and a Hocotate equivalent of a dog. He has a robust vocabulary and spends a lot of time studying the flora and fauna of the planet. He names his discoveries after things he likes, the Pikmin after his favorite brand of carrots, their homes he calls onions, and the most prevalent enemies, the Bulborbs, are named after his pet, Bulby. There's a common joke among fans that characterizes Olimar to say that he's a bloodthirsty tyrant to the Pikmin, gladly leading them to their deaths for his own selfish ends, but that's simply not supported by the text. While it's possible for the player to burn and blow up dozens of innocent Pikmin at a time for sport, Olimar takes it very seriously when a Pikmin falls in battle, or when some followers don't make it back to the ship at night, and he keeps a mournful tally of Pikmin lost at the end of each day. Yes, Olimar does what he has to do, but he thinks of the Pikmin as friends and allies. Then there's the Dolphin. Olimar loves his ship, which he built himself from customized parts. Even if it's a bit of a clunker, Olimar has a story to tell about each part he collects, from the extraordinary bolt which he swears was not a foolish purchase, to to the Libra and Sagittarius, seemingly functionless pieces that are presents from his son and daughter, respectively. Fun fact, it's possible to escape the planet without certain parts, including a massage machine, a weapon system, and Olimar's entire life savings, but he will not go home without these trinkets from his kids. It's little details like this that endear me to Olimar. I know it isn't much to go off, but it's not an incredibly narrative game. This isn't exactly Death of a Salesman here. Okay, actually, that's exactly what I'm here to talk about. Death of a Salesman. 7 years after meeting Olimar, I read this touchstone American play for high school English class, and while reading about Willy Loman, I couldn't help but be reminded of the Pikmin series. It's a faint connection, but bear with me, and I'll show you how this cult icon from Nintendo's back catalog relates to one of the most important written works of all time. So this is the parallel I want to make, to offer a deeper take on my favorite minuscule cosmonaut. It takes some personal views and conjecture, but it will explain my greater than normal appreciation for this series. My first point of interpretation, Olimar is really sad. Sure, being trapped on a carcinogenic planet would upset anyone, but his depression predates his crash landing. It actually starts with his design. Circles are often used in character design to make characters either cuter or more sympathetic, but look at the ovular head. The longer diameter of the oval isn't vertical, but horizontal, giving this sense of gravity acting down on him. Ditto for his identically shaped helmet. He's short on hair and a little chubby, which paired with the fact that he has kids makes him seem older than your average Nintendo champion. And his eyes have an almost eternal squint, giving him a look of either boredom or, in my opinion, ennui. This is a very tired, put-upon character design, all the more fitting when you look into his situation. I don't think he likes his job very much. At the beginning of Pikmin 2, we see that the president of Hocotate Freight doesn't have much respect for him. The title of captain holds no real power. Olimar holds as much sway as Louis, an incompetent mess who caused the company to go bankrupt by eating an entire shipment. In Pikmin 1, Olimar writes nightly of how he prays he can survive, how all he wants to do is see his family again, and arriving home in Pikmin 2, that request is immediately denied. The president sends Olimar back to the distant planet to save his stupid company from bankruptcy by collecting treasure. Olimar has no say in this. While he is no longer in danger of suffocation, and he can now at least receive letters from his loved ones, he doesn't even get to stop home and give them a hug before he's sent off on another death-defying journey. And his prized dolphin, which we spent the whole game repairing, it's taken from him without a second thought, again to pay off the debt. Olimar survives desertion and is only kicked in the stomach upon his return. Hey, wait a minute, he bought those parts himself. His kids bought those star charts. His life savings is in there! So let's hop over to Death of a Salesman. Death of a Salesman was written in 1949 by Arthur Miller and is considered one of the most important plays in American history for its themes of disillusionment with the American dream. Spoiler alert, the salesman dies. The main character is Willy Loman, also married and also with 2 kids. He's worked for his company for 36 years, and he's given up on other opportunities because he believes the way to succeed in life is to stay where you're at and have your loyalty rewarded. After all this time, he's received no promotions, even while younger employees sail by him. Furthermore, he gets stuck with the job of driving out to New England for sales, meaning he makes repeated tedious drives alone across the East Coast. In his old age, struggling to keep up with insurance and house payments, disappointed that his sons aren't turning out to be the business tycoons he wanted them to be, and spending way too much time on the road by himself, Loman begins to go mad. He has delusions, flashbacks, and suicidal tendencies which, by the end of the play, eventually take his life. Attention must be paid, his wife says, but the sad fact is, in real life, it is far too easy to get stuck, and hard work is not always rewarded. Besides the nuclear family and the general sadness, one major similarity should be apparent. Both Olimar and Willy Loman work thankless jobs, where they're forced to make long, uneventful trips. Olimar's is a cartoonish exaggeration, traversing entire star systems for his deliveries, but the feelings are the same. There's many other similarities. In his anxiety, Loman often claims that he can hardly breathe, and also complains that his house, for how long they've had it, is now surrounded by tall, modern buildings that block out the sun. This gives Loman a sense of smallness and insignificance, like he's the Loman in his community and workplace. Olimar literally can't breathe if his 30-day life support system runs out, and the distant planet surrounds our Lilliputian hero with giant structures. Next to the Pikmin, he really is the smallest thing in the world. You could say that Olimar's predicament is an abstract representation of Loman's greatest insecurities. Insecurities he may well share with Olimar. Though both characters yearn for growth, they can also be extremely nostalgic, especially with technology. After one of his long trips, Loman recounts his old 1928 Chevy with mirth. He complains about his newer car, where he can't even put the windshield down. Obviously, this reminds me of Olimar, having to change from the Dolphin with all of its personal value, to the Hocotate ship in Pikmin 2, which literally looks like a trash can. It also talks, and is the worst character in the series, a nagging, condescending chatterbox, replacing Olimar's charming tutorial notes from the first game. That actually gives us another parallel to Death of a Salesman, Loman's boss Howard. Howard is younger than Loman, and pays Loman little mind as he begs for a raise or a change in the workplace. In this scene where Loman tries to express his concerns, Howard is much too enamored with his newfangled wire recorder. If you could combine Howard and the recorder into one entity, it would be the ship AI, a pointless hunk of new technology that spends all its time telling you things you already know. See also Louis, a much younger, less experienced workmate with just as much status as Olimar, and the President, Olimar's boss, who doesn't give a crap about his well-being. No one really does. Sure, the messages from his family are nice at first, but they're often just stories of them struggling financially, or of his wife making poor investments with Olimar's meager earnings. Even his kids spend a lot of time whining to him. Loman's wife certainly understands the pressures he's under, but Loman can't stand to see his family pitying him, which only makes him feel less respected. They're just two put-upon fathers struggling to provide for an ungrateful family. At least, that's the way they see it. At this stage, it helps to have a hobby. In his old age, Loman's developed an obsession with gardening. Symbolically, this represents his need to leave a legacy after he dies. But just like how his garden is overcast with little hope of providing for healthy plants, his sons, Happy and Biff, show little aptitude to be what Willie would consider successful. But in a literal sense, Loman just wants to grow plants, which is exactly what Olimar spends the first two games doing. On that note, let's take a moment to look at the endings of Pikmin 1. If you fail to collect the needed ship parts in a month's time, Olimar's ship explodes. The Pikmin carry his battered body into an onion, and he is turned into a Pikmin seed. Hilarious and incredibly disturbing. Here he'll remain for all eternity, like a Pikmin, the lowest of the low. Stuck. Stagnant. Getting the needed parts results in the good ending, Olimar's escape, but getting all 30 parts results in the best ending. Olimar escapes, and we see the Pikmin have learned from him, and can now defend themselves without his help. Well, that would be Willie's best ending, wouldn't it? Not only has Olimar survived through management, proving himself a better leader than those that lead him, but he's made his children, if you will, into capable survivors who can provide for themselves. Sorry, Loman, but your ending is much closer to the former. I don't want to say that Olimar and Willie Loman are the same character, or even the same archetype. Willie has many disturbing character flaws that Olimar has no evidence of sharing, but they each start their story in a similar way. It's how they continue their story where they diverge, and we'll get to that. But if I'm going to connect these two characters, there's something I can't ignore. The play opens with Willie Loman returning home early from a business trip. Again, the solitude was too much for him, and he came home early. Everyone he talks to has the same first reaction, asking if he crashed the car. Curious. This has happened before. On 3-hour drives, Loman's mind tends to wander to the past, and his car tends to wander off the road. Later, it's speculated that this hasn't been an accident. Whether consciously or subconsciously, Willie Loman has been trying to kill himself by crashing his own car, and at the end of the play, he finally goes through with it. How does Olimar's story begin? This tiny, exhausted man, overlooked for his intellect and gumption, is returning from yet another soul-crushing trip when his ship lists into an asteroid. I don't want to be morbid, but is it possible Olimar might have been... Well, he later clarifies that it was a malfunction in the Dolphin scanners, but boy, doesn't that cast the whole game in a new light. Don't dwell on it, let's move on. So, have I blown your mind, or do you think I'm drawing at straws? Hey, to be honest, I see what you mean. Pikmin is a Japanese game. Its character isn't going to be inspired by a 1940s American play. It must be a coincidence, right? Well, it is, but it isn't. See, things have changed a lot for the middle-class American family. Unlike in the 40s, the father is often more present in raising the children and gets more time at home. Unless you're in shipping, you don't have as many long business trips anymore. But those kinds of practices still live on in Japan. What we're looking at in Olimar is a distillation of the Japanese salaryman. For some, working a white-collar job in Japan's major cities can be brutal. Work weeks last from Monday to Saturday, averaging over 13 hours a day. During financial busy seasons, it's not uncommon for men to work over 50 hours of weekly overtime with no additional pay, and many will accept this because Japanese culture reveres hard work and loyalty to your company. To refuse these hours is to appear less devoted than one's workmates, who may be competing for promotions and pay raises. Salarymen usually get out of work after the last trains have stopped, and see their families only in passing before collapsing in their bed. That is, if they don't spend their off hours in the bar with co-workers, as many feel obligated to do. The work system enforces camaraderie between workers, which is great and all, but that means the company always comes first. And if you want that salary to increase, you have to come in early and prove yourself to the boss. Sometimes the boss is looking for what are called business bachelors, sending them to other cities for weeks or even years at a time, giving them no chance to see their loved ones. That sounds an awful lot like our petite pilot, doesn't it? Now, I don't want to completely condemn this lifestyle. Many of these workaholics are perfectly happy in their jobs and live out fulfilling careers. Some prefer business to home life and like to minimize time with their loved ones. But Olimar hates his job. He wants to see his freaking family. It should also be noted that Japan has a significantly high rate of suicide, as of 2012 being ranked the 17th highest in the world by relative population. Leading causes for suicide are depression, unemployment, fear of unemployment, and social pressures, and it is the leading cause of death in the country for men ages 20 to 44. In 2014, an estimated 70 Japanese citizens committed suicide every day. The Japanese language even has its own word for a sudden death from overwork. If an employee has an unforeseen heart attack or stroke in the office, it is referred to as karoshi. So where did this business practice start? Well, the term salaryman has been used since the 1930s, but Japan's workforce really started shifting into this model following World War II and the post-war westernization of their economy, restructuring a lot of business practices. So, Olimar is a prime example of overworked Japanese salarymen who are modeled after American salesmen, the prime example of which is Willy Loman. They're not inspired by one another, but in a sense, they're cut from the same cloth. But don't worry, that doesn't mean Olimar's doomed to the same fate as Willy Loman. For one thing, the business climate of Japan is shifting, not unlike Western countries, making it easier for fathers to be a present part of their families. But in-universe, Olimar's life takes an interesting turn that, when compared to the Loman family, gives us the most pivotal distinction. Let's look back at the text. Is there a way Willy could have been better off? Well, it's a work of tragedy, so no, resistance is futile. But let's look to another character, Ben Loman. Throughout Willy's many flashbacks, we often return to his estranged brother. Ben was an adventurer, and made his fortune discovering diamonds in the jungles of Africa. Willy always looked up to Ben for his rugged courage, and at one pivotal moment, Willy has a chance to join Ben in the Alaskan gold rush. But Willy turns him down to be a family man. Subscribing to that old American dream, Willy insists that he needs to wait, put work into something for it to grow and flower. But all that promise, in Willy's opinion, got him nowhere. Just like the garden in his backyard, nothing's grown. His decision haunts him to his final days. I bring this up because something remarkable happens to Olimar over the course of the Pikmin trilogy. He first landed on the wild planet by mistake, and was against returning for Pikmin 2, but by Pikmin 3, he actually seems to like it. He gets that chance for adventure Willy never took. The first game is about survival, but during Pikmin 2 and 3, Olimar is there on a treasure hunt, and he's actually really good at it. Olimar was getting pushed around by his boss on Hocotate Freight, but on this world, he's the leader. Hundreds of Pikmin are hanging on his every whistle, and it's not just tyrannical, they benefit from him. Through Olimar's tutelage, they're able to overcome their predators and increase their numbers. Olimar is able to provide for the Pikmin in a way that perhaps he couldn't for his own family. He's a master of delegation. His logbook is full of eloquent, encyclopedic writings. He sketches monsters, theorizes on their patterns, and plans strategies. He's a natural-born explorer, a Robinson Crusoe by way of Jean-Luc Picard. This doesn't mean he's given up on his family. He still supports them, and at the end of Pikmin 3, he returns home, supposedly for good, but only after he's made enough money to buy back the dolphin. He's found a balance. Pikmin 3 is an interesting case, as it stars a cast of characters from a different planet. They're more concerned with having enough food to eat, and they even remark that people from Hocotate tend to be very greedy. So maybe Hocotate is just inundated with the same kind of flawed American dream ideology. As a background character of Pikmin 3, Olimar gets one last arc, where he arguably goes too far in the other direction. His search for more treasure finds him trapped by a golden monstrosity that literally won't let him leave. But luckily, Alf and the gang help him out of that, and now he's all good. He found happiness in his job, but also took charge and made changes to his work life. He's certainly not going back to monotonous deliveries after this. In his video diary, he stands with a new poise and confidence, and now it's his knowledge of the planet's ecosystem that guides this new generation of explorers. It's what the Japanese would call datsusara, meaning an escape from the corporate life. To some, it's looked at as a sort of business suicide, but to many, it's a way of finding their true calling in life. Olimar may have started as an insignificant bug, metaphorically on Hokate and literally on Earth, but he found something he loved and rose above his stagnation into a hero to Pikmin kind. So does this make him the version of Willy that did go with Ben to Alaska? Or the version of Willy that found a way to make it all work? It's hard to say, but it's certainly inspiring.
You want to know what's killing you? It's those phony dreams of yours about all of us being so big and important all the time. Willie, I ran down 11 flights with a pen in my hand today, and suddenly I stopped. I stopped, and I saw the sky. I saw the things I love in this world. The work, and the food, and the time to sit and smoke. And I looked at this pen, and I said to myself, what am I grabbing this for? Why am I trying to become something I don't want to be? What am I doing in an office, Willie? Making a fool of myself when everything I want is out there, waiting for me. The minute I say, I know who I am. Why can't I say that, Willie?
So, yeah, this comparison comes way out of left field, but I hope it explains why I take this story perhaps a little more seriously than most. As a closing thought, I want to bring the play and the games together one more time. The title, Death of a Salesman, isn't referring to Willy Loman's suicide at the end. It's the death of an era. The door-to-door salesman was popular in Willy's age, but times are changing. How people shop and consume products aren't the same, and Willy's lost because he's unable to adapt with them. How does that relate to Pikmin? Well, we've gone on long enough, so I won't really get into it here. But there's an analysis to be made about this perhaps post-apocalyptic Earth Olimar is on, where all that remains of humankind is the brands and products they consumed. How, metaphorically, the salesmen of this planet are dead, and it's the adaptive pioneers like Olimar who thrive here. He saved his company and his family from financial ruin, but only a brush with death forced him to reinvent himself. He no longer lives at the mercy of his bosses, like Willy waiting for the American dream and hard work to pay off. He took the reins of his situation and whistled his way into the future. He still looks like he's ready for a good nap, but I think this guy's gonna be just fine. Besides, it's a Nintendo franchise. They're not gonna let the character die like that. Olimar stands as a small assertion against Willy Loman's ideology, that no matter how much bosses or society limit your choices, you always have at least one, to try or not to try. Olimar, well, he always knows what to pick. Hi again, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. It took me a really long time to make. I'm still learning how to make this kind of scripted content and edit it together and make it look good. I'm hoping this will be the first ever character study of a very long series. I have countless ideas for these kinds of videos. I also hope they can get a little bit better in the future, not just in video editing, but also in the content. I realize that this is actually a very base level analysis of Death of a Salesman, but if you'd like to hear my thoughts more on that, hit me up in the comments. I'll talk all about Death of a Salesman. I love that play. But for now, I want to give some big thank yous. First and foremost to the Plant Commander. All of the footage from Pikmin and Pikmin 2 were from his Let's Plays over on his channel. He also creates remixes. Please check out his channel. He's great. For the Pikmin 3 footage, I got that from ZackScottGames. More likely that you've heard of him. Go check that out if you want to see a Pikmin 3 Let's Play. The logo that you see on the screen there for Character Study was created by Soul. I commissioned him over Twitter. He's a friend of mine, and he should be a friend of yours too. Go check him out. No doubt you probably recognized GreenScorpion's voice in the intro. That was him doing the announcer voice. Thank you very much to him. Finally, the song used in the intro was called Chiptune Cascade. It is a royalty-free song by Cubby Royalty. Check that out in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. Go check out all those beautiful people, and if you'd like, stick around here on this channel. I have plenty of Let's Plays and much more scripted content to come. Hopefully. Kind of working it all out here, but hey, new year, new goals. Let's do it, guys.